I try to watch or read everything I can about North Korean society. Any article, TED Talk or documentary about the DPRK, I will try to get my hands on it. I read Michael Palin's somewhat odd travel journal, and I've watched the bizarre Collision in Korea wrestling event from '95, which saw crowds of 355,000 bewildered North Koreans seeing pro wrestling for the very first time. I am just fascinated with the idea of a society which, for the most part, has been fostered outside of much Western influence. I imagine that, had I been born a bit earlier, I would have had a similar interest in life behind the Iron Curtain, back in the USSR. The Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, which dominated the latter half of the 20th century, could be defined by a number of factors, among them being nuclear proliferation and the need for secrecy. The Soviet Union, in the pursuit of the latter, formed a number of closed towns, or towns that only allowed authorized residents for specific reasons. Zheleznogorsk, or as it was initially known, Krasnoyarsk 26, was established in 1950 to aid in the production of weapons-grade plutonium. Its facilities were built mostly underground, within a mountain, to help keep the facility secure and to protect it in the event of a bombing raid from US forces. It reportedly took 14 years to excavate the mountain, with a New York Times article later claiming that they removed more rock than it took to build the largest pyramid in Egypt. Zheleznogorsk would remain a secret town in the Soviet Union, not even being featured on maps of the region until 1992, when Russian President Boris Yeltsin stated that former closed towns were to be given names. The history of Zheleznogorsk is reflected by its flag. It features a red field with a yellow bear attempting to split an atom. Bears are a common motif in Russian design, with the idea of the Russian bear being used in political cartoons, flags, and illustrations since the 16th century. The colours of the Zheleznogorsk flag, presumably, take inspiration from the flag of the USSR, as the Russian bear is more typically portrayed as a brown bear. The atom the bear is splitting, fairly predictably, is a nod to the town's origin as a facility responsible for reportedly producing roughly 1/3 of material used in the Soviet nuclear arsenal. This flag is another good example of why the rules of vexillology should be considered guidance over strict laws. I don't think your average child would have a great time in trying to replicate this flag, as it's not the simplest design, but you can't deny that it's just a great looking flag. Admittedly, some of the details, like the fur on the bear, the shadows on the atom, could do with being a bit more minimalist, but the striking colour contrast and the many layers of meaning behind the imagery of the flag mean that the 80 or so thousand residents of Zheleznogorsk are very lucky indeed. Thank you for listening to a podcast about flags. If you like this episode, please subscribe, and you can follow me on Twitter at RBOSol or at A Flag Podcast.